Are you willing to take a leap of faith with a small company for the sake of a beautiful home? Because that's exactly what you're going to get with Tradition Homes. You won't find them across multiple states, nor are you even going to find them in multiple parts of Dallas. Like, you literally are only going to find them in 2 cities. All right, you ready? Prosper and Salina. And within those 2 cities, there are just 6 communities. Now, it just so happens that those are among the 2 most popular cities in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth area right now, but that is really small compared even to like other local communities like Grand Homes. All right, they're only in the Dallas area, but they have over 35 communities. So just imagine the comparison between, like Tradition Homes and then a nationwide builder like Toll Brothers, who's even on the stock exchange. In fact, I'm gonna be honest with you, as I was researching information about their history, it was hard to come by. Like, all of the information I could find about Tradition Homes' history is kind of vague. Like, throughout my research, I would find answers like, the Tradition team has over 100 years of combined experience. So that's like not the most telling answer. In the end, I had to go to Instagram to see that they were founded in 2019. However, all right, I will say this. One of their founders is Bill Darling, who has been a home builder since 1987. So there is a little more history there, on his side. The gist of the history is, I found out, is that in 2013, Bill Darling and his 2 brothers, they sold their company, which was called Darling Homes, to Taylor Morrison. Then in 2019, Bill Darling teamed up with Zach Schneider to form Tradition Homes. So you don't have nearly the long line of history or nationwide coverage that you'd find with a company, for example, like Toll Brothers. In terms of awards and national recognition, you're not going to find it. Locally, though, twice they were featured in the Dallas Builders Association Home of the Week. All right, here's what the association had to say about them. Headquartered in McKinney, Tradition Homes builds on a 30-plus year Darling family reputation for award-winning design, quality, and unmatched customer care. President Zach Schneider and Chairman Bill Darling lead an incredible team of design, customer service, and building experts committed to excellence on every level. Now, they're an upper end to luxury range builder, so expect to find those kinds of prices. The general price range starts like in the mid 600s and then soars to well up to over $1 million. So where can you find them? In that lower 600 range? Well, you'll want to check out Parks at Wilson Creek in Salina. You're going to find a slightly lower price range, in part because the Parks is within the Salina Independent School District. Salina ISD is not as highly rated or popular, as its counterpart, Prosper ISD. So you end up being able to get lower prices. Now, that being said, Salina ISD is still an A-rated school district by the Texas Education Agency. Plus, according to the Parks at Wilson Creek website, the developer has entered into a contract with the district for a future on-site elementary school. So that's a definite plus. The reason you'll find better prices in Salina ISD is simply because Prosper ISD is higher rated. So the TEA gives Salina ISD an A, but greatschools.org only shows 25% of their students score above average, while Prosper ISD, same website, Great Schools, shows 53% above average. Plus, Prosper ISD has gotten a lot of awards. So, the thing you have to remember, all right, is you always have to remember, quality buyers will always be willing to pay more for a quality education for their children. So the Parks at Wilson Creek price range starts in the mid 600s. It's about an hour and 5 minutes from downtown Dallas. Now, that's not the best commute time, right? But it is close to some other large cities like Frisco and Plano. When it comes to amenities, it's definitely not lacking. All right, part of the community's popularity may be due to the things they're talking about, like the resort-style pool with the kiddie pool, lifestyle programming, sand volleyball, basketball, and pickleball courts, an amenity and fitness center, and really the list just goes on and on. If you're liking the sound of the Parks at Wilson Creek so far, Let's see if their style matches yours. Generally, you'll find brick homes with high-pitched roof lines. They've got a good range of sizes with 6 floor plans offering 1 and 2 story options between around like 2,900 to 4,000 square foot, and definitely leaning in towards more like an elegant style. Now let's check out one of their higher end communities in Prosper, Lakewood at Brook Hollow. Now the price range here is almost exclusively in the millions. Its starting prices are in the 950s, and then you're just gonna go up from there. Now I mentioned that Prosper ISD tends to be a lot more desirable, but another thing that's more desirable about Prosper is that it's at least 15 minutes closer to the bigger cities south of the Salina Prosper area. Lakewood at Brook Hollow is about a 50-minute drive to downtown Dallas. Despite the higher price range, Lakewood at Brook Hollow has a bit of a shorter list when it comes to amenities, or at least compared to like the parks at Wilson Creek. You'll find things like a community clubhouse with a large patio and fireplace, an on-site cardio room, some trails, playground, and a community park coming soon. Plus, of course, the resort-style pool with the kiddo section. Now, we already talked about Prosper ISD and how Salina ISD really isn't bad, but Prosper is just more, fantastic. In fact, in 2016, Prosper ISD was ranked the 18th best school district in the entire state of Texas. And sure enough, if you pop over to niche.com, you see that they are indeed the 18th best school district in Texas. Possibly because Tradition is a small company, the homes here are pretty much the same. Lakewood at Brook Hollow offers the same 6 floor plans with brick homes and high-pitched roofs in an elegant style. So you have 2 communities with very different price ranges building essentially the same homes. All right, take their plan 5061, for example. Its starting price at Parks at Wilson Creek is $791,900, but at Lakewood at Brook Hollow, the starting price is $959,900. So we're talking almost a $200,000 difference, less than 9 miles away from each other. All right, same floor plan, different city, and different school district. Okay, now that we know what Tradition Homes has to offer, what kind of contract is it gonna take to get you into one? Well, we're gonna find that just like our other Dallas builders we reviewed, there are a ton of predatory clauses in this contract. I mean, how would you feel if you went under contract to buy a Tradition home? You spent 6 months watching it be built, like you invested a ton of money fixing up your current home so you could sell it. Now you're homeless and ready to close on your brand spanking new Tradition home. Only then you get word that Tradition Homes is canceling your contract. Well, guess what? There's nothing you can do about it because the contract gives them the right to do that. It's called the convenience clause. The clause allows a builder to cancel their contract for any reason or no reason at all. And guess what? You're gonna find it in the Tradition Homes contract, okay? This is what it says. Seller prior to closing may at its sole election and for convenience terminate this contract by written notice to buyer. But don't worry, because they realize that this could be a real problem for you, so they're gonna give you a whole $1,000 for your trouble. This is how that part of the contract reads. In the event of termination of this contract by the seller, seller shall return all funds paid by buyer plus $1,000. So there you go, mighty generous of them. But what if you don't like them terminating the contract? Well, sorry, Charlie, you already agreed to let them do it. This is what the contract has to say. Parties agree that these stipulated damages are a reasonable and foreseeable estimate of the damages that might be experienced by the buyer. Then they continue, upon such termination of this contract by seller and tender of the stipulated liquidated damages, no cause of action against seller shall accrue. But they're not done yet. Let's add insult to injury. The contract continues. Buyer shall execute a written release of this contract and deliver it to the seller and the title company. Now, if you thought the convenience clause was bad, let's talk about penalties for closing late. If you don't close on time, you can be charged $500 for every day that you're late. Here's what the contract says. The seller has the right to charge $500 per day to the buyer for each day closing is delayed. Now, let's just say you had to pay an extra $5,000 in closing costs because you couldn't close on time. Well, don't think for a minute that you can get onto Facebook and vent your frustrations. All right, when it comes to things that you can get in trouble for with this contract, here's one of them. You can't say anything bad about Tradition Homes on social media. So, if you're frustrated with how slow the construction is going or that the sales consultant isn't being responsive, well, don't post about it on Facebook. This is how the contract reads. Neither party shall utilize any form of social media, the internet, the World Wide Web, or print, traditional or digital media of any kind to insult, disparage, make false statements, misleading communications, or speak negatively of the other party. And guess what? They mean business too. According to the contract, any violation of this provision is a material breach of this contract and subject to a party's right to obtain a restraining order. All right, here's a question we always ask. Do they put the CC&Rs in their contracts, or do you have to go digging for them? And in case you forgot, CC&Rs are the rules relating to the HOA. They cover things like whether you can have chickens or build a shed in your yard, all right, that sort of thing. The reason this is really important is that with these new construction contracts, you're agreeing to all of those rules whether or not you've even seen them. So does Tradition Homes provide them, or do you have to hunt them down? Well, the answer is you have to hunt them down, but at least they tell you where to look. All right, here's how the contract reads. Copies of the restrictive covenants and dedicatory instruments may be obtained from the county clerk. Now let's talk appraisals. The gist of Tradition's terms is that if an appraised value is less than the purchase price, the buyer has to make up the difference. This is how the contract reads. Buyer acknowledges and agrees to be responsible for the final sales price regardless of the appraised value and may be required to invest more at home closing accordingly. Now remember, with a pre-owned home, you can decide what actions you'd like to take if you're using, for example, a conventional loan and you still want the home to appraise. Well, you don't get that luxury with Traditions or really with any home builder. I mean, at least Tradition explains to you why the home might not appraise. This is what they have to say. Buyer acknowledges that there are several reasons appraisal may be less than the final home price, including but not limited to lot premiums, volume of upgrades added to the home, outdoor improvements to landscaping, outdoor entertainment, and the volatility in market prices for new homes, as well as construction costs. One of the first things we do for our buyers, and a really important thing, is a solid, detailed market analysis. The price the builder quotes you is not your ground zero and not what you should think an appraisal will come out to. So it's really important, okay? You have to look at closed sales. Now, moving on. Here's how Tradition Homes handles property tax finality. Taxes for the current year, maintenance fees, assessments, and dues will be prorated through the closing date. All right, so why does this matter? Well, because a lot of times when you close, the property is only valued based on the land, not the whole house. So this means that Tradition Homes gets away with not paying their share of the full property taxes for the first year. But don't be fooled, all right? Those taxes still have to be paid. You'll just be the one footing the bill. Now, what if either of you default on the contract? Well, if the seller defaults, the buyer can get their deposit back. But if the buyer defaults, meaning you, the buyer, the seller lists all kinds of options, right? Here's what they have to say. If buyer's in default of any term herein, seller may terminate this contract and retain all funds previously paid by buyer to seller as liquidated damages, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. But they don't stop there, okay? The seller can also terminate and seek recovery of any and all damages suffered by seller, including but not limited to lost profit, payment for all materials, labor, overhead, and fees with respect to this contract. So the word default, all right, I realize that's a really broad term. So as you're reading this contract though, you have to be very aware of any place where the seller says this is an act of default, because according to this contract, a default of any nature could allow the seller a lot of options to pursue. Let's talk about their warranty for a minute. When it comes to the warranty they offer, you need to know this: they do not service the warranty in-house. Now, this is not hugely uncommon, but it is like icing on the cake when you can have a builder who services their own warranty. All right, here's what the contract says. Seller, at seller's expense, will provide a third-party warranty through Structure Home Warranty. I'm gonna be honest with you, the warranty that Tradition Homes offers is not the greatest. They only insure for 6 years for structural repairs when most builders warranty for 10 years. The contract states the third-party warranty may offer warranty coverage for major structural components for more than 6 years, but in no event shall seller have any warranty obligation after 6 years, and seller is not liable for any claims, causes of action, attorney's fees, expert costs, diminution in market value, or other damages whatsoever. Now, that being said, the third-party warranty does offer 10 years, but you just have to know that Tradition Homes will only stand behind 6 of those 10 years. All right, this is what the warranty reads. Programs include 1-year workmanship and materials, 2-year wiring, piping, and ductwork, and 10-year structural defect warranties. So we have a small company with not a lot of history with the company itself and offering really a very minimal warranty. I mean, this is a situation where hyper local reviews are gonna carry a lot of weight, and fortunately, Tradition Homes has them, and I mean, it has them in a big way. Like, check out these Google Maps reviews, all right? Windsong Ranch in Prosper with 46 votes has a 5 out of 5 stars. Then you have Mustang Lakes in Salina with 27 votes, a 5.0. Parks at Wilson Creek in Salina with 20 votes, a 4.8. Lakewood at Brook Hollow in Prosper with 5 votes, a 5.0. And Mosaic in Salina with 10 votes, a 5.0. So with all of those, you have almost a full 5-star rating. All right, that speaks volumes. Now, this should come as no surprise, but Yelp has no reviews whatsoever. I mean, even larger companies like Toll Brothers, a lot of times even they will have like really limited reviews on Yelp. But Traditions doesn't have them on Yelp, and they also don't have any reviews on the Better Business Bureau either. And the BBB is a great resource for seeing how a company responds to complaints and issues, and we have nothing there, right? So when you're deciding on a Tradition home, okay, you have unbelievably outstanding local Google reviews, and that's it. All right, you don't have information on Yelp or the Better Business Bureau. You don't have giant, impressive national awards. They're just too small. Again, if you go with Tradition Homes, you have to take a leap of faith on the little bit of information that's out there. Now, while we're talking about the quality of the home and not having a huge history behind it, I have to say the issue of sheathing came to mind. I mean, that's a hot topic these days, and I really was curious what Tradition used. Well, I was really impressed to see that Tradition uses both structural and non-structural sheathing with the zip system, and that they even have this information readily available. This is how the contract reads: structural and non-structural sheathing or zip system OSB per engineering design, taped at all seams. And I will say this about Tradition Homes: they are great about disclosing a lot of information. I mean, they are not keeping anything secret. They provide 8 pages of line-by-line details on every product in the house. I mean, sometimes I have to spend a really long time trying to find out what particular sheathing a builder uses, but not with Traditions. I mean, it was very easy to see what type of sheathing they use, along with a lot of other information most builders just won't have listed out anywhere. Now, if I've lost you on this whole issue of sheathing, all right now, if you're like, Wendy, I don't even know what you're talking about, I can tell you it is a really important and controversial topic with today's new construction. So much so that I made an entire video about it. You can watch right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.